Hi, this is Thomas from thomasjungauthor.com, and today I'm presenting you my fourth text, my fourth essay in my collection Deconstructing Pride, and it's called Paradise Lost: Gay Culture and the Promise of Sexual Liberation. Now, anyone familiar with my previous texts know that with my essay collection I am trying to challenge, I'm make an attempt to challenge some of the dominant ideas in our culture about homosexuality and about being gay, about the gay identity. And I'm laying out how I think about my homosexuality and about that not being really my identity. For me, homosexuality is not an identity issue, and I'm trying to explain in my essay why I think that. In my latest text, Paradise Lost, I am talking about sort of the sex in homosexuality. I mean, the modern gay identity is basically a product of what you call the sexual revolution of the 1960s and 1970s. So a lot of ideas that constitute the gay identity are about sex and about sexuality, and sort of a liberated, a promiscuous form of sexuality. I mean, the gay world has traditionally seen itself, as having this contrarian morality, contrarian to, the dominant sexual morality, so a different morality. And a lot of gay people see themselves, or see as the historical task of gay people to impose that morality on the rest of society. In my essay, Professional Gays, I've talked about, a guy I call the king among professional gays, a guy called Dan Savage, who thinks it is his task to tell people who are not gay, or to instruct them on how to live, the sex life many gay people enjoy. And so that's what this essay is about, what the new essay is also basically about. And I'm starting with a couple of observations. The first observation is, I mean, there is this idea among gay people, especially my age, I'm 44 years old now, or a lot of older gay guys who say, well, they used for living the promiscuous life, there was once a better time, and those were the 1980s and 90s, where people have the feeling much more was possible. And when I started going out, and when I was starting, also finding sexual partners, that was basically the end of that era, and that's what I'm basically describing. And after that came all the the hookup apps and the drugs and all that kind of stuff, and that changed the way of having promiscuous sex, and that changed the way of dating. And that's also what I'm trying to talk about in this essay. I'm trying to talk about what has changed. And there's another observation. I mean, when a homosexual adopts the gay identity, it is often expected, because it's part of that identity, that he's somehow sexually liberated, that he's open to experimentation and that kind of stuff, open to promiscuous sex and all that kind of thing. But the problem is not all people have that. I mean, a lot of people are either narrow-minded, or they are inhibited for different reasons, and that leads to all sorts of problems within the gay community and the culture of dating, because there's sort of a performance pressure among and certain group dynamics that makes it that there are a lot of people who want to have the image of being sexually liberated, but they are not, and that sort of leads to all sorts of vicious dynamics within that world. And that is also what I'm trying to explain. I call this phenomenon, the liberated pose. And the event where this liberated pose is sort of almost celebrated or shown is, of course, gay pride events. Because I always wondered, why do I hate these events so much? I mean, I never liked them, but I mean, 25 years ago, they were not as horrible as they are now. I mean, they were not my thing, but I just didn't care. I just didn't pay much attention. But as these events grew in scope, and in ever more cities and places, and ever more people going there, I started to resent these events even more. I was thinking, why is that? And I think it has to do with that, because what I see now is that they wear all these leather harnesses and all these or they wear very little and everything, and it's sort of presented as if they are sort of sexually open, but in a way they are not. What they are celebrating is actually a certain sexual tightness among themselves, but also it's like sort of their own inhibitions and stuff like that. And that is what I'm also writing about. Because, I mean, pride events are, let's say, this is where the exhibitionism of gay culture sort of shows itself the most. But of course, there's also a lot of, sexual exhibitionism in the general culture. And you can see it, for example, in the way people talk about sex now. I mean, sex is constantly talked about, it is endlessly talked about. That's one way of another way of how this exhibitionism shows itself. And one of the major points I'm trying to make in my essay is that, if sexuality becomes ever more exhibitionistic in display and in speech, I mean, people will lose the capacity, to engage or even enjoy sexuality when it is talked about so much. And then I also wonder, I mean, why are these events growing? Why are the numbers growing so much? Why does it seem to get crazier and crazier? Is this really about sex? Is this really about gay liberation? Because I don't experience any homophobia. I mean, and also the people around me never did. So homophobia does not seem to be a big problem. It's mostly a perceived problem. And so what are these pride events even about? And to me, what it is showing is that the culture of the political culture, it is basically a liberal order that's becoming ever more authoritarian, because these pride marches, they remind me of military parades in communist regimes, or these huge party rallies in fascist regimes. I mean, that's what they are starting to resemble. It is basically an authoritarian order that presents itself as liberal. It's basically saying to the people, listen, people, you can live like pigs all you want to, as long as you don't interfere with the social and economic order. And that is what all of this is about. That was it. Thank you. Bye-bye.